Peace, world. Welcome to Heart to Heart. I am your host, Jona Monet, but you can call me Money. So, Heart to Heart is an experience where artists from diverse backgrounds and disciplines gather to dive deep into conversations about matters of the heart. Join us as we explore the intersection of art, emotion, and life, discussing everything from personal practice and creative purpose to the political landscapes that shape our artistic expressions. In each episode, we invite you to listen in as our guests share their unique perspectives, stories, and insights on living and creating with passion and profound impact. Art to Heart, or Heart to Heart, Art to Art, Heart to Heart, is a space to connect, reflect, and be inspired. Tune in as we bring hearts and minds together in the pursuit of artistic truth and understanding. Yes, yes, yes. Snap it up, snap it up, snap it up. So this is our first episode, and it is indeed an experience, a trial. We're gonna see what it do. But our intentions are to bring just some awareness and like highlight just different artists. A little bit about myself. My name is Jona Monet, but you can call me Money. Money the Monet. I am an artist, graphic designer here in Washington, D.C. I also am indigenous to Americas, and I like to trade Forex. Outside of that, I love to read a lot of books, and I'm always like looking to learn something or like experience something or like figure out things. So from that, I came across an artist named Citizens really about like 10 years ago, honestly. It's been a long time. I actually purchased this piece. I was gonna wait till he gets on, but I purchased this piece a long time ago, and like I still look like her. My hair's a little bit longer, but I still look like her, and I'm just very thankful for the creativity and just profound artistry that he has. So a little bit of backstory also is that on his Instagram stories, and you should all follow him, on his Instagram stories, he usually just kind of like, he posts different news outlets from around the world. Himself is African, but I'm going to let him like explain because I don't want to misquote anything, but he will post news stories from across the world, and it's always just some wild stuff or things that just make you think. And I tend to have bickered with him in the past, like, why y'all be coming to America and doing these things? Or like, if it's like this in Africa, then like, why y'all over here doing this? And, you know, back and forth. And like, he always has an answer. But most recently, he posted that, in Senegal, there are a group of people who are robbing tombs and taking the bones and mixing it with, I think weed, they said like a leafy substance, but they call it Kush. And that just like really, I was like, what in the world? Like, they're digging up bodies, smoking it, and they're addicted to it. And it looked like worse than crack to me, for real. It looks really bad. And so I just didn't understand how a culture that was so, you know, we learned about Mansa Musa. We learned about like that just being the, Alkebulan, but also Pangea. We learn about Africa being like the mainland, the motherland, but at the same time, you know, a lot of their resources are being taken advantage of, stolen from them. One of the earliest things I knew about was like when Blood Diamonds came out and Kanye West dropped a song, and it's like, damn, you know, are these things that important? Like, do we really need these things? And then also like jumping in with, so we have Blood Diamonds, but then also the family that owns the diamond, one of the biggest diamond company, actually has a lot to do with what's going on in Northern Africa, Israel, and the Mediterranean and all that. And so like when you trace the money, you realize that a lot of these things have a lot to do with each other, and a lot of these have to do with the exploitation of brown people. With that being said, I just was very inquisitive, like what is going on. So I wanted to bring him on here to just kind of talk with us, have some dialogue about, you know, art in general. Because first of all, that's what brought us together is the art. And there's artists everywhere, and like everything we do is art, for real, for real. So it's like, you know, the purpose is to speak about the art, get to dive deep, but then as we get into like why do you do what you do, of course those things are going to come out. So it actually looks like to get him in here. Let me make sure my volume is up too. Yeah, there we go. So that we can just kind of start this interview, get these questions out the way, and then like hopefully get a little like timeline, a little more, what do I want to say, like history and just wisdom and knowledge about each other, because we're not strangers, you know, we're not different, like we're individuals, yeah, but there's a lot of things that our cultures can learn from each other because we're clearly both being exploited. Yes, yes, yes. So I want to thank you all for coming in. And then like, yeah, well, I got you. Yeah. I had to, you know, I had to size you up, and you know, I still got it. It's still amazing, and it still looks like me. You know, it still looks like me. Hold up, I can't hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, you can't hear me?
Oh, there we go. I got you. I hear you. I hear you.
It's better?
Yeah, much better. Much better. Yay! So thank you for joining
No.
in. I was giving a little bit of backstory about like I just always be in your DMs because you're always sharing art, you're always sharing news, and you're just very. I think you're very up to date or just aware of the world. Whereas a lot of times here in America, we can just be so kind of stuck in what's happening in our hood. And I see that reflected in your artwork a lot. Like you're able to pull so many sources from history to hip hop to medicine to food to sex to art, like all these things together. And I think you're one of the greatest artists of our time, actually being like in the now with your work, right? So thank you, citizens.
You're welcome. Thanks for the kind word.
No problem. So I guess to start off this interview, I guess could you share a bit about your background and then like your journey into visual arts? And I say graphic design because you do be doing some graphics too. So a little bit of your background and like how you got into art.
Well, I've been doing art for a while. Since I was a child, I always just remember drawing. I guess some of my family members kind of saw the interest, so they kind of invested in that. I remember like when I was like 10, my one of my uncles bought me like a whole paint set. I was very really deep into like I was always like a fantasy nerd. Like I was very much into like a lot of like novels. Um, Back in the day, there used to be like these books where it would come with dice.
Okay.
Books would come with dice, and basically like it was like I forget the actual name for them, but basically it will come. You'll read the book, and then it will come to a point where it'll be like roll the dice.
Okay.
Roll the dice will tell you, okay, if you rolled it to this number, go to this
Okay.
page.
Like a choose your adventure type of book, but
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
dice though,
yeah,
that's different.
yeah,
That's
yes.
different.
I was very much into that. Lion Witch in the War, just everything that has to do with like medieval times or any of these medieval. It's just anything that had to do with like fantasy, mythology. Very big into mythology, like Greek myths, Norse myths, like African myths, different things from like the Ashanti to Yoruba. Just any. I just like to hear a lot about just like the gods and like just whatever. So yeah, I was very much into that. That actually helped me more when it came to art. Yeah, I mean, from there, I guess like I was always just into art. Went to school, always got into like different art classes. Luckily, I grew up going to high school in Northern
Okay.
Virginia. Um,
So where were you before that?
um, I was still in Northern Virginia, but I was in
Okay.
parts. So basically, I moved from like I guess like what you call like Alexandria area, from Alexandria to like from Annandale area to
Okay.
Alexandria area.
So you got a little closer,
Before that,
a little
yeah,
closer.
before that, I grew up in England. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so I grew
Okay.
up mostly in England, and I left England like around like 12. So that's where I got most of my like mythology stuff, like King Arthur. Like they took us to like go to see like Roman, like old Roman.
Yeah. Yeah. Castles and
Yeah,
I grew up in Germany and I moved from Germany around that same age. So that's interesting too.
yeah,
So yeah, okay, that's definitely a cool
yeah. They basically brothers and sisters right
mhm.
there.
Okay, I didn't know that. So when it was time to you to like start when did you know that you wanted to like make a living off of this or like it become your like you know
Yeah, so I was into that. Like, luckily, moving to Northern Virginia, I went to school in Alexandria. I went to one of like the most like I guess you'd say Fairfax County has like is one of the best, like, well, back in those days it used to be like one of the best, like, best paid what's it called, public schools. So
yeah.
the school that I went to, Edison, it was one of those schools that actually had like a technology
Okay.
hub. So you would have like basically schools throughout the district come to my school. So they had like HVAC, they had
Huh?
people learning how to uh, do automatic, what's it called, cars, stuff like that. And they actually had a graphic design department. So they had like Adobe, like this was Adobe, probably like Adobe 5. Like
Okay, yeah. When you
this
had the CD
old
before
Adobe.
you
So I actually learned a graphic design in high school, and just from that, I used to get people like, "Yo, I'm having a party," and then they'll be like, "Yo, can you make me a flyer?" And then just small things like that. And then back in those days, I don't know if you're from the DMV, you'll know what this is, but I actually started working at Rugged Wear.
Okay.
So Wear was like it's basically like a DC brand. It's a DC Maryland brand, a black brand. They make T-shirts. So back in those days, you had like City Life, uh, We Are One,
Shooters and just like
Shooters,
hobo, stuff
City
like that. Yeah.
Life, Hobo, like all these brands. So through working with Rugged Wear, I got to see like, oh, I could actually make money from making like T-shirts. So I used to make like like Disney World, like shit that you see on Iceberg, like stuff that you see on Iceberg clothing. We was doing that in like the '90s, early, like
hmm
making glitter, making T-shirts, making whatever. Like, so I was just always knowing that, oh, I can actually convert this art into a way of making money. So that was always something that was always there, and it was always just thanks to like learning how like to use like my graphic design skills to maybe like make a party flyer, just different things. So yeah, so from there is where I learned how to make money from like art, or just learning that, oh, my art can be something that's like professional. It doesn't have to just be for fun.
hmm Okay. So my next question has to do, well, let's see. Over the years, is there any like has your style evolved and then are there any reasons for this like evolution?
um yeah, I mean, for sure, like I, I say that I acquire styles. I don't feel like it evolves. It's just
Okay.
something I I guess I just grow with the art, just grows with me. So um I feel like it's more about the content of the art, or the message of the art, that evolves. But I'm the type of artist that I don't really feel like I have a style. I think I have certain type of styles that are recognizable, but I kind of just, the art is conveyed, or the style of the art is conveyed by how I want the message to be conveyed. So yeah, I picked up different styles. Like I said, I was very much into fantasy art. So like There's like fantasy artists like Frank. I can never say his last name. He's like a super racist white dude, but he makes the best art. If you ever seen like the old Conan the Barbarian,
Okay.
like he was the one that was doing a lot of those. Fritza, but yeah, like different things. Then I went to graffiti, and from graffiti I went to like more fine arts. Like so I've always just picked up different things and then going into like African art and being more abstract. So it's just a pickup of different styles for me. I don't feel like I evolve. I just think the content of the art or the message is what
For
evolves.
sure, for sure. And so, um, so what kind of did spark this conversation is the fact of like current events and like social issues. I guess how do they influence or like I guess what is your is there like a way that like you look at something and you just kind of am like I know I need to like recreate this or retell this story, or are you pulling from that fantasy energy of like let me recreate what it could be, or how what's your like personal mixture of the two of like what's going on in the world and then how you put that inside your art?
Well, when I first started, I'll definitely say like my art was more geared to like music. So like it was a lot more to do with like hip hop. I grew up being like a backpack rapping, like listening to more underground rap. So I was more interested in like graffiti and things like that in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as I got older, getting into like politics, understanding what politics is, understanding our like our role in the global like world when it has to do with like economy, war, entertainment. Those are the things that started to change in art. So I would definitely say more in the beginning was just more about like hip hop, art, like just doing things that has scenes of like music. A lot of my ideas come from like the albums or the artists that I listen to. So that was mostly the motivation. But as I got older, getting into more mediums, getting into more different directions of like where I can get my information from, kind of shaped that and changed it.
For sure, that's music definitely is a key piece of like that's another art form. It's just like another art form
De-
blended in with another.
Definitely, I think music. Uh, I think people would say definitely music is something that they see in my art, and I think that is just the fact that the type of music I gravitated to. It kind of it kind of made me understand my position as an African coming in and living in America, and and then also and then it made me understand who I was as an African, and then it also made me understand uh like me coming in and understanding like black history in America and how that had to do with either me or the people around me, or just understanding a lot of like what the history I would never like find
Yeah,
out in.
and that's it's like so now with like things coming out with like Diddy and the Epstein list, like we're learning, it's shedding more like we kind of knew this already, but it's shedding more light onto how a lot of the what was shown to us was purpose. Like it could be, you could say it was a facade, it was like a cover up, it was like implanted. I do feel like a lot of artists, I'm really talking about musicians, but they had like they were given an agenda and they still use their real life experiences and like freedom. I saw something too where they were saying like Ice Cube and them was not gangbangers. So they were just like using maybe their uncle's experience or like something that they've seen to actually kind of create a image to portray what black people were going
I
through.
would definitely say like me, I never grew up thinking like a lot of these artists were actually doing the things they said they that they, I just believe like because I mean, I guess it's just depend. It does depend on how you're exposed to rap music or music. I was exposed by the people that were actually like in it, so I understood the art form of like it being poetry or them just actually just telling you they're being the messenger. What is going on? Like, because to me, to be honest, if you really pay attention, most rappers who are really doing what they're doing, they die or they go to jail before like they reach a certain point. You don't really hear about them as like you can't be Snoop Dogg and be and be gang banging for real and being that successful. You know what I mean? So I always saw it as they're I guess me being an artist and like I had a time where I actually wrote music. I actually recorded music. Like I just saw it as another. Those people are artists. Like if you are artists, they're painters. A lot of them draw. A lot of them do other art, other artistic things. So I just always thought of just them being like an extension of.
I think that's a beautiful way to be able to see that, and that does come from your background because you're a creator, like you're creative. I find a lot of times society kind of like off puts the creatives, but then in the behind the scenes it's all creatives for real, for real. So that's a very elegant way to be able to see past the bull and like and get
And I
and get to the point.
sorry, and I feel like a lot of times what the difference was like we got to remember media was very different. The exposure that we had to superstars was very different. Like in these days, you can go on live, you can go on Instagram and see an artist taking their children to school.
Right.
Before we only saw the artists when there was a press run. Other than that, they were gone for 2 years until they came out with another album. You know, featured on another track. Like before, most artists they were mystery to us. You know, they were like superheroes. But now we literally can just go online and hear them talk, whether it might make sense, whether it may not make sense, whether we might see their flaws, whether we might see them as like giants and or inspirations. Like we literally see them as regular people now, to be honest.
Yeah, that is very, very true, and that is different. So like this generation is getting a different
Oh yes.
look into it.
I used to really think Snoop Dogg could turn into a freaking dog. Like
Yeah.
I thought Michael Jackson could turn into a robot when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
That was They were so mythical. Like you really did not see them like you see them on a daily basis now. Like you
Yeah.
see them on press runs, and these press runs were very like they had money put into it. Like that was back when record labels was throwing dumb money at
Yeah.
people. Like
I remember I think it was MTV or VH1, maybe MTV had this show making the video, and they would show like how they made people's videos. That's how I learned about Hype
yeah,
Williams, and I seen that like, okay, the song is maybe 3 minutes, maybe five max, but it took like a week. It took like 4 or 5 days just to record for 3 minutes. I was just like, whoa, this is so much more than I ever, could
yeah,
see, think
yeah.
of.
Like music videos were full production. Like they were full, like literally like movies. Like
Yeah.
they portray a lifestyle that they were not living. Like it wasn't. So I just feel like these days and times, like we just get a very raw. We just get very much artists as they are now. Like we actually get to see them as they are, like compared to before.
Yeah. And seeing people as they are, it makes me go back to like some of the things that you post. So I guess where do you get these news things from? Like, yeah.
I'm big into like news. Like I think like my love for music has like changed to like just news. Like I've really, the more older I get, I feel like I've listened to a lot of music. So it's a lot of the things sound like the same now, or it doesn't. I don't want to say it don't impress me, but it's like I've heard it before.
Yeah.
So nowadays I'm very much into like wanting to gain a lot of understanding of what's going on globally and locally. Uh, I feel like a lot of that goes into my art or goes into my understanding of where I want to take certain directions of just uh, okay. So like my what you call my stories, like my Instagram stories is basically something where I want to be able to like instead of typing exactly what I'm feeling or what I'm experiencing or what I'm learning, I rather just show it. So like a lot, mostly everything that I'm posting is things that I'm already just either I'm learned myself or I heard about it or I'm just hearing about it or just listening. So basically, it's just that's like my mood board. So it's like a visual.
It is. It is a visual move.
Yeah, because it goes from everything from I could talk about war. I could talk about uh, child labor. Everything from just recently in Mississippi, they found like they found like a whole uncovered grave of like of 200 and something bodies that they've been hiding.
Oh, you're
Just
behind
certain
the prison? You talking about that?
behind the prison, yeah, like
Yeah.
things like that. Like those are the things I listen to, and I'm just like, okay, maybe if it's interesting to me, and I just heard about this shit, I know other people want to hear about it, and so
Mhm. I'm so thankful for that because you definitely got me hip to so many things, and it expands my mind. I be saying like your story is like I usually watch like Democracy Now. I thought that was like the little alternative things, but it's like yours speed is my new Democracy Now. Like you just keep me aware of what's going on.
sounds dope,
Yeah.
man. Shout out to Christina. Like I'm a Democracy Now whore. Like
Hmm.
Democracy Now. Yeah, it's uh, um I don't know if you ever watched like Adult Swim.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like I always wanted to like play off of that where like they're always showing different things and there'll be like an interlude of music
Hmm.
randomly somewhere. They'll just have like some type of art, some like showing with music. Like I know like as for me, I don't want to see like the way I want to keep people in like engaged.
Yeah, shorter.
People
Insane.
sometimes you got to show people like maybe like a booty or something. Like everybody I feel like everybody's a mixture of everything, so like I don't want to make myself feel like okay, yeah, you can come to me and I'm gonna only tell you about African history or what's going on in Africa today. I want to show the gambit of everything that's going on throughout the world because I feel like we as humans we're just not one thing, and I want to be able to just throw a net and just catch everybody at once with just make them more interested. So yeah, a lot of everything that I post is like my mood board. It's like what I've learned and what I want people to know.
Adult Swim is what made me decide to do. I studied digital art design
Mhm.
at Towson, and it was a lot to do with Adult Swim. I was like, I wanted to work for them. I wanted to
Yeah,
be a
it was
part of
cool. There was
doing
that
these shows, but it's just giving. We gonna have to make our own channel. So you're gonna get a segment. I'm gonna get a segment. Now I work for BET Plus, and I've been meeting different people on different parts of the teams, like people who work with the distribution, people who pick up the shows, people who actually like. I got to meet some different production companies and how people do it. So I'm running the behind the scenes. So we
yeah,
just get that work ready, and we can. We really got to make our own
yeah,
channel. Or, we can get them to show some stuff, but we just probably need to do our own platform and stuff.
yeah. Content is what's running the world now. So it's just about providing people with content that they may not think that they need to know or what they're looking for, but they can't
Yeah.
find. So I like posting like links to things so people can actually go and do further research or go through a rabbit hole of other things.
Hmm. So, and that is kind of one of the things that sparked this whole conversation. So, I am American Geechee Gullah. I did
Oh, you
my
get
family.
Oh, you Gullah.
Yeah, I'm Geechee Gullah. Yeah, I don't have the accent because I was raised around the world, but
Yeah.
go to South Carolina and they sound like they speak in
Oh yeah.
patois, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have a very close connection to
Okay.
Barbados, because actually North Carolina wanted this is North Carolina, they wanted
Well,
to
finish your statement. I'm sorry.
create like a actual
Yeah.
colony in
Yeah, so in South Carolina, they do have a small African colony that are Geechee Gullah that exist. They kind of have like their own laws per
yeah.
se. It's only but yay big.
Shout out to
My family is
Island.
is Yamasee and Seminole tribe. So like, there's a lot of intermixing and stuff, but
Yeah.
my family has been really on this land for a long time. And my grandmother used to always be like, we not from Africa, don't let them tell you that. But I would just visit her and I just didn't understand. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I go to school and I learned the whole history of slavery and I'm like, oh, I'm a slave. I'm so sad. But then I get older and I start to do my own research. So it took birth certificates, death certificates, marriage licenses, maps, and the census. Those are the five main paperworks that I started to gather from my family. Then I found out when you do the overlaying of the maps to where your people are, you start to figure out, who was who and where they were. And I traced my family back to, actually one side traced them back to like England. We found the captain's name and all that stuff. My mother's side is more indigenous to here, and then also South America. But that side, I'm still trying to figure those things out. But it's like that's the 1700s to 1500s, and ain't nobody was from Africa. So why I gotta check this box that say African American just because my skin is brown? You have some people who will be here 2 years from Africa. Those are African Americans. You know what I'm saying? That's African American. And I do believe that there is a mixture of culture, but I feel like as quick as they're trying to throw that label on Black people or brown people, they're erasing the indigenous history here because they want to. My theory is they want to take over the whole country. If you have everybody being like, "Oh, we ain't from here," who's actually going to claim the land? They did that to New Zealand. I mean, Australia. There's barely any Black people there anymore. I met a guy last summer who his skin is fair. He looks white, but his family is indigenous to Australia. And he speaks about how quickly that shit is turned over there to the point where there's really no more Black people. It's a real small percentage of native Black people. So they call it, I've heard that they call it the lucky country because the indigenous people weren't able to fight back as much and we don't know their history. So it's like, you think of Australia, you think white surfers, and they don't got to worry about nobody fighting back no more. So I feel like that's what they want to do here. So I'm like, again, though, I grew up in Germany and I wasn't really taught the slave story in Europe. When I came to America, that's when a lot of those things were being pushed upon me. And it was hard for me to relate at first because I saw castles growing up. I saw more statues. I saw so many things that, like, yeah, I was in Germany and there was like an underlying racism thing. But as a child, I didn't feel that. The kids didn't like tease me like that. That didn't start happening until I came to America. So I feel like there's a lot of now in hindsight, I can say like, not knowing your history, not knowing who you are, seeing stuff on TV. Cause I literally remember in like middle-ish school when South Park did the fucking African booty scratcher shit. And like that like ran rampant through the community and all of that stuff was just so ignorant and like immature and like, but just like the way they control the music, they were trying to control a narrative of what we thought about Africans. Then you get older and more and more are coming to this country and you're learning like, oh shit, it's so many tribes. It's so many different, dialects. It's so many different cultures. And over the last couple of years, I just started to learn about tribalism. I used to think that Ethiopians ain't fuck with me. I was like, why are these people so mean to me all the time? They
Ethiopians
always mean.
don't fuck with
Nobody,
no. Well,
because they're
Ethiopians,
tribal.
I be shot. People don't fuck with anybody, but it is what it is. But that's the thing though. People don't understand that Africa is probably not even probably. Africa is the most diverse continent in the world. Like you have to think about it. Like if you go to Europe, most Europeans come from like either one or two certain branches, right? Where in Africa, me as a Ghanaian that comes from more of a central part of Ghana, right? I relate more to somebody that's in the central part of like Nigeria than I relate to somebody in North Ghana. Like it's so diverse. Like I could have DNA that's connected more to somebody in England than somebody that's gonna be in like Senegal. That's how diverse we are. Like you can literally in Ghana, there's literally about 100 different languages, and that in that just small pocket of place. That's how diverse it is. Because remember, this is where the cradle of civilization is coming from. So you get a more of a mixture in Africa. Then once they start going out, it comes less and less. So like so a lot of the times where people think like I think the problem is like the pan-african fantasy that was kind of like that was kind of like put out there in like the 60s and 70s of like certain like African unity and all these things. It's not really a thing. There's not really a thing like that. Africa's too diverse, it's too large, it's too spread out. Like it's different mind states, different type of understandings, different languages, different types of everything. So it's just not the same. Like even me being an Akan, I'm ethnically an Akan. Within my ethnic group, there's even people from different countries that are part of my ethnic group that we probably don't even speak the same language. Like I'm more of where I'm from, we're more like anglicized. We're basically coming from an English like framework, whereas there's an Akan group in Togo who are more coming from a French framework. And we don't even sometimes even connect politically. I feel like I connect more politically to somebody in Nigeria a lot of the times than I do to somebody in Togo or these more French speaking countries. And they're right next to us compared to Nigeria being a couple of countries away from us. So it's very diverse. It's crazy how diverse Africa is. There's not really a African unity. There's not like one Africa. Like
it makes me think so. Two things. I met a lady. She was a student at college, Bowie, and she was telling me that when she comes here, she was African. I'm not remember from where, but she's like when she comes here, there's more unity between them than over there. She was like, if you come here and you're like, hey, I'm from here, you can find a little group and like y'all can get together and relate. But she was like, back at home, it would be like, oh, you are this, you is that. Yeah. Then they don't really connect.
Because we got to remember we're talking about. Okay, so we're talking about first. We're talking about nationalism, and then from nationalism we're going to like more of a ethnic kind of thing where they call it like tribalism, or it's not really tribes. Like a lot of these places are nations. Like if you look at the people they call like the Yoruba tribe, right? Yoruba, it's not a tribe. They literally have enough people to be a nation. Like they can literally go and be their own nation. You know what I'm saying? So these people, I would basically call this like nations, right? So basically, like these groups, it's when we're in our own places, we're in our own places. But once we come out, it's like, oh yeah, we have a familiarity. There's a familiarity that we understand. So that nationalism or that tribalism that we would normally like basically go with if we're at home, we don't go with when we're here. Just like if you go to Italy, people in South Italy to North Italy are totally different people. They think differently. Sometimes even the Italian that they speak is totally different. But if they all come to America, they're all gonna come together as Italians because there's a common familiarity when they're in a land where they're kind of the other, or they're
just so different from America because here all black people is niggas. Like we all like it's kind of like all black people are kind of put in the same boat and we don't like you can tell like okay they may speak Creole, okay they got a city accent, they got a southern accent, but like we're just kind of all meshed into one and we don't have like you may have cultural differences from the food you eat and stuff but like it's not recognized per se.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think like when you look at African Americans in America, I feel like the African American or the black thing is more of like a governmental census type of shit.
Okay.
But when I go, like I've had the blessing to be able to travel to different parts of America, right? And when I travel to like, if I just even let's look at the DMV or like closer to let's say Maryland, Virginia, and what's it called DC, right? DC has like their own shit. DC have
Yeah.
their own It's like to me, I see those things as ethnic groups
Okay.
within Black America because when I went to South Carolina, Geechee is its own ethnic group.
And
It's its own language.
but then I think like
They
as
have their
a
types of food. They have everything. It's just what we forget is like basically what America has done is they've created categories. They need to create categories for certain things when it has to do with politics. So when they make people say, "Oh, you have to check this box," you're checking that box. That when you're checking that box, all that is just to make sure that you can have a voting block, you can have a representation in government. And all they're doing is just making it easier. So for instance, right, let's look at Asians. When you think of Asians in America, you automatically think people that look Chinese or Japanese because those are the people that we in America normally see as Asian,
mm-hmm.
right? If you go to England, when I grew up in England, when you said Asian person, I'm thinking of an Indian Pakistani.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
That's
and I
what
just
Asian to
kind
me
of learned about that because honestly, I didn't even know really that India was considered Asia.
is.
I've just recently come
Sub,
across the
sub,
term like swarma. I think it's like
yes,
South Asia,
Asian,
something.
Asia, South
Yeah.
Asians. So those are the Asians that are represented the most in England.
Mm-hmm.
So when I grew up in England, if you said an Asian, you're normally talking about a South Asian, Indian, Pakistani, Bangladesh, Tamil. Those are the Asians that I saw. I hardly saw I hardly saw like Koreans and Chinese
Mm-hmm.
unless you went to like if you're an African or something where you ate certain types of food, so you'll go to the markets where you'll see Asian people. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, it was dominated by South Asians, Indians, Pakistanis. But when I come to America, Asian is more of Chinese, Japanese,
Yeah.
Korean, because those are the ones that are more represented in it. So I always say like I I think it's more about your going out into America and seeing those things because regionally, if you go to certain places, like if I go to Kansas right now, Kansas has a whole lot of Indians. You know what I'm saying? You'll see Indians all over the place. If I go to South, what's it called? San Francisco, the Asians that I'm going to see are Koreans, Chinese, and so it's every place in
Yeah.
America those types of things. But you have to go
Yeah.
and see it. But if you don't, all you're gonna do is only relate to what the government has provided to you as the
And I've
categories.
been a few places, and I feel like no matter where I've been, I was able to kind of relate and fit in with the black people there. Like it was one of those things like, hey, what's up? Like, you here. I worked for the military for a while, and we would go to different Navy bases, and I went to like Ohio, I went to Seattle, I
Mm-hmm.
went to Florida, and like places I just wouldn't go on my own per se. There was still different white presences that sometimes in those small towns it was still very
Yeah,
separate, one time we drove through to New Orleans from out here, and like once you got in that mid country, it felt real Hills Have Eye-ish, like weirdish.
Yeah.
And it is but like what you're saying is like as you go out and you can tell, like especially with DC and Baltimore, there's different types of black people. There was like breeding there. Baltimore had a big incest breeding ground back in the slave days. So there's like a group of like people just look the same from there.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, you look it up. It's a Baltimore was a big breeding ground. And so
Because they have docks, they have ships that came in.
yes, yep.
So yeah.
And so there's a certain type of person there. But we as like we're not taught these differences as like differences. We're kind of just like black people went from the South. It was like everybody first it was the 13 colonies, then everybody was in the South being slaves, and then everybody came up north. You know, people came up north
North
to,
had a lot of slaves. They had
work.
Boston, New York were big shipping areas. So you had a lot of slaves in New York. Also, it's just the type of work they were doing wasn't plantation.
Right. But the way that school teaches it, like you're knowing this from like your what you've gathered from your experience, your mindset, what you've seen, but I'm like they don't teach black people this at all. They don't know this for real. And that's where it's like I feel like there's a disadvantage to the culture because they're not aware, and most black people never leave the block. Like they don't leave where they're from. They do not know. They have not seen. They don't know. And that's a disadvantage. So I appreciate these conversations because we can start to shed some light. You know, now there's people are traveling more and getting out more, but it's kind of scary if you've never done it before either. Where do I go? What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. But like I hope these types of conversations kind of open up the mind because we do need to see more. I plan on going to Africa this year for my first time.
Where are you gonna go?
Well, it's a group trip to Egypt, right?
Oh Lord.
I know. I always hear that. I've been like, why everybody want to go to Egypt
That's
first?
the worst.
But
That's the worst to go to for your first time to go to Africa. Is the place to
and
go
I
to.
do. So I have a cousin whose father is from Ghana, and he took them for the first time like a couple years ago, and I know that I could always reach out to him and be like, hey, I want to go, like, and try to set them up. But like as someone who I don't necessarily relate, like how do I even start? Do I get it? Like where would I even go? Or like
West Africa.
I don't have a reason or like a
West Africa is just always the best place to
go. Like just it feels so scary. Just go. Like just how do you know where to go and what to do or like how do you start that?
There's definitely places that I mean, as of right now, these days it's very easy to find out like background of like where you want to go, what would fit best for you.
Okay.
I would always say, Ghana. I mean, I'm not trying to say that just because I'm Ghanaian, but the only reason I say Ghana is Ghana's always just a good gateway to West Africa, to kind of like as your first place to go, just for as your chops. Only reason I say that is just because of the history a lot of black people share with Africa. I mean, with Ghana, or just like West Africa, period. So, and the only reason I say Ghana is because of there's just a lot of framework that's already established for that. There's a lot of African Americans that already live in Ghana and live there for years. So there's already communities like in Cape Coast. There's a huge African American community. There's like elders from that's been there for years. So
I'm trying to plan a trip then. We need to plan. I need to plan a trip. Some of y'all on this chat, we need to get together and let's go to Ghana.
I have a few friends that have homes or have like places where they allow like people can come to where they can like provide you with assistance or just get that whole make it a little bit easy for you to. And I would say definitely what you should do is even just go, if you go on like YouTube, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a name for people that moved. I forget it right now, but there's like a name.
There's like a whole thing like on YouTube with that like from the diaspora who either travel a lot to Africa or just travel or actually live there or live some of their time there.
Mm-hmm.
So easy ways. I mean, shit. I was born in Ghana, but even for me, I didn't go back to Ghana till I was in my 20s, like my late 20s. You know what I'm saying?
Expats, yeah, expats. That's the word, expats. Yeah.
Yeah. So which is you're an immigrant. I don't understand why they use expat is used for white people and then immigrant is used for like black people, Africans and shit. It don't make no sense. You're not an expat. You're fucking like you're not. You're just an immigrant.
Well,
Use that word. It's so weird.
don't use it. Don't use it. See, that's all. That's all we know. Okay, so good. Okay, so we learning some things.
Yeah, like expat is just a nice way of white people saying they're not immigrants. Like it's fucking immigrant. That's all it is. Like
Speaking of white people, I watched the Netflix show Young, Rich, and African or something, and it just showed me a lot of things that I've just never seen about it. But one of the things I did learn, because they were in South Africa, and they talked about a bit about, they have colored, white, colored, and then black.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
South African.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother.
Before, but yeah, that's like a whole different things. Like that's because we got to remember, like Americans don't have the they're not the masters of race, like race theory. You know, what I'm saying? Theory is something that was created in England and then broadcasted out to the rest of the world. So each society has their understanding of race. Like you could go to places like Jamaica, and even in Jamaica, like they have different categories. There's black, there's brown in, there's light skin, there's mulatto, there's all these different types of sections that's set up. And you go to South Africa, they have a whole nother classification of race. So every society that has that type of a culture of either colonialism or slavery, they each have their own understanding of what is black or what is white or what is in between of that. Like you go to South America, places like Brazil, they have like a long like they literally have for your skin tech. If you're black and your hair texture is different, there's a name for it. If you're black and
so do we know of any black culture? This is for everybody, y'all in the chat too. Do we know of any black countries that are just like they've maintained, like they haven't been conquered? Has everywhere been conquered to some point? Like, is there any stand-in black places that are just
it's not a thing of conquered, it's a thing of the whole world is globalized. Okay. The whole world is globalized. I mean, not even the economy. Like, even if you think about education, if you think about entertainment, like the whole world has been globalized for hundreds of years. So there's no such thing as either you're soft conquered, hard conquered, medium conquered, you're conquered. Like, I don't think of it as a conquering thing. I think of it as more just, at this point, we live in a globalized economy. We live in a globalized world. Everybody's gonna attain certain types of certain things from everywhere, and that's how it's always been in history. If you actually look at history and you look at like how it was, there's never been a nation or people that hadn't come in contact with other people and assimilated their ideas of their. Look at Greece, right? Without Rome, without Greece, without the Greco-Rome and the Greco-Roman ideals and innovations that has happened, Europe wouldn't be what it is. Because Rome, Greece, they conquered half of the world. And with that, what they did was they helped take ideas that may have been in like the Middle East, and they brought those ideas to Europe. And they brought those things to like roads, shit like roads, basic shit like roads.
Right.
Those niggas, they ain't had that shit in Europe. They didn't have like roads. Romans were the ones that first built roads. People didn't have certain things like aquifers. Like they didn't have these things. Like all these things were things that were adopted through what you would call like war or conquest. You know what I'm saying? Where in Africa is very different. Africa was very
Everybody in this chat is saying
no,
Ethiopia. One thing
no,
I'm like,
no,
Ethiopia though,
Ethiopia,
they were
no,
like,
Ethiopia.
I feel
No.
like they
That's
sold,
a
they
myth.
was a
That's
part
a
selling
myth.
us out.
It's a myth.
They,
Ethiopia was actually one of the first conquered nations.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They've been conquered for so long
Ethiopia
that we
was
forget that they was even conquered.
Ethiopia
They've
was
been
conquered.
sold out.
Ethiopia was they even changed their name. Ethiopia used to be called the Axumite Empire.
Yeah, I believe.
They were called Axumites. They weren't called Ethiopians. Ethiopia is actually a Latin word.
Hmm.
Ethiopia just means burnt
Yeah,
face.
yep.
So if you go back into history and you look at maps, because they didn't, and you look at like Greeks and the Romans, and the Romans actually did expeditions into southern Africa. So they went past like North Africa and went into southern Africa, close to like the Congo, the Niger River. And
Okay.
if you look at their maps, where that is, they call that whole place Ethiopia, because for them, Ethiopia just meant it's a place name. That's all it is. It's a place name for black people who are dark skinned.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was in the 4th century, Ethiopia, well, the Axumite Empire, they converted to Christianity through Rome. They were actually a vessel for Rome.
And I think about, is that because I
They,
seen a video where they had the black Jesus, the Ethiopian Jesus.
Ethiopians, you go to Ethiopia right now, all their Jesus is white.
Really?
They have white Jesus. Ask any Ethiopian. We're thinking of like their books,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you go to China, if you look at Chinese Christians, they draw their Jesus as a Chinese person for them. But if you really go to their churches are more those are more like denominational. So they have certain connections to other churches. Like, so if you look at Ethiopian church, they had connections with Rome for a while. And then they actually diverted from Rome and went to the Eastern Orthodox. And so from the Eastern Orthodox, then they went and branched out for their own. So now you have their own Ethiopian church. But for many, many thousands of years, they were under Europeans. And they changed their name to Ethiopia. They looked in the Bible and they saw, oh, Ethiopia all the time. We're them. And then they changed their name to Ethiopia in the 4th century. I kid you not. So when we look at the Bible and you see people say, and you read Ethiopia in the Bible, it's not the Ethiopia that we see today. It's like Ghana.
That's
It's like
true.
Ghana
You have to, like, whenever that book was written, you have to look at the definitions for what those words
was
meant
then.
back then and
Yeah,
not now. And yeah, we do get kind of stuck up in those type of things, and it's like, no, that's not even what it meant then at that time.
like I'm from Ghana, but Ghana was a kingdom that was in a whole nother area of West Africa thousands of years ago. So, but if somebody came from then and they said, "Oh, I'm Ghanaian," they're gonna think I'm from Ouagadougou, because that was the original name for Ghana. Ghana is actually an Arabic name. It's the Arabic word for Ghana. Yeah, Ghana is an Arabic word for Ouagadougou. Ouagadougou was the empire of Ghana, but Arabs that went there, they called it Ghana. So we took the name Ghana as basically as like a what you call it, like it's like giving props to our ancestors, because we actually do come from Ouagadougou, but we branched out and came south to the western coast. So our ancestors are from Ouagadougou, but we call our country today Ghana. But Ghana was already an empire a long time ago.
And
So
we are very a traveling people. Like, I guess only most recently we've been so sedimentary, but like we traveled around a lot. We
yeah,
moved with the vegetation and things
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
We moved. So that is very true. We don't think about that nowadays
yeah.
either. We think like they was there from the beginning of
Oh,
time. It's like
no, no,
these people
no.
was
Like West Africans, we basically West Africans, and then that's the thing. I feel like what we're talking about right now is where we get African history so fucked up, because we have today Ghanaians, we have West Africans today that think they're like we're descendants of Egyptians. We're not. The West Africans, the ones our ancestors left West Africa, left North. I'm sorry, we left East Africa thousands of years even before the Egyptian Empire was even something. We had already migrated from Sudan area and come to West Africa long before even Egypt had an empire. And so where
Excuse me.
what and then what happens is we think like, oh, we see similarities. So the similarities, then we think, oh yeah, we used to be those people. And we're not. Like a lot of times African history is just all messed up. And a lot of it to me, I feel is just people trying to it's like a fantasy thing. We want to make ourselves feel better about ourselves. We don't have a lack of real scholarship information about who we really are. You know what I'm saying? So
And certain, like I'm thinking Asians, but certain people, they know they stuff for a long time. Like they know their lineage, like for hundreds, maybe not thousands, but definitely hundreds of years, kind of more
oh
than.
yeah, I mean, because it that's the problem we forget to understand with those countries. Like, I mean, well, not those countries, but that continent, right? A lot of these continents have large empires that actually conquered large spans of land, right? So if you have an empire, so for instance, look at China, right? Well, let's look at Asia. You had the Mongols. You've had even Alexander come and conquer from Greece, come and conquer parts of Asia. And what happens is if you have one empire that spans a large amount of land, right? You're gonna have people that's gonna be writing about it. You're gonna have people that's there giving. There's gonna be technology, innovation, because the safer you are, the more you have time to actually do things like invent shit. Go ahead and start thinking about, oh, like where do we come from? If you're always at war, if you're always hunting or trying to figure out your next meal, you don't have time to do that. You're basically survival mode. But once you're in a safe area where it's an empire, there's laws, there's things set up, you have armies, all these type of things, you start to realize like these people didn't really discover shit. It's just they adopted things from other places because they actually were the ones that conquered them. So when you look at Africa, Africa was way too sparse. It's a land, large large continent, and people, one, they're ethnically different. You could walk 100, you could walk 50 miles, and then you're talking to somebody, they don't even understand each other. You know what I'm saying? Then you didn't have large empires like that. There was no large empires in Africa that spanned, like, let's say from one side of the coast to another coast. You had small kingdoms, you had small empires that had a small amount of people. So for instance, if you're an empire, you start to learn certain things in that empire. It's going to be hard for you to take that information and then give it or for another people to learn it that you don't hardly have contact with. Like, have you ever heard of the silent trading?
Mm, sign language?
No, silent trading.
Uh-uh.
The thing that first started in Africa, basically where two people would trade and they don't know how to speak to each other. What they would do is basically they will leave like their goods in a certain place for a couple of days. Then the other people would come, see what it is, and they'll be like, okay, nah, I want more. So then they will leave a certain amount, keep what's there already there, and another person will come, trade it, and they will do these things where it's like basically they'll trade and without communication, and that's what silent trading. These are the things that were happening. There wasn't really a lot of where, like, say for instance, in let's say like the Levant area or where Egypt is, you had people that were merchants and traders that were coming all the way from Greece, coming all the way from Yemen, all these different places where everybody was collecting information. Everybody was collecting information, but in Africa, it wasn't like that. And then one thing we also forget is the terrain in Africa. You have a large Sahara desert that is hard to cross. So only a certain amount of people would always cross there. And they would only do it for trading. Not a lot of it was for education. But you had places like Timbuktu where they had the best universities. But it wasn't easily accessible to people. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very different thing, like population, trade, everything is different in Africa, where it was kind of like very easily accessible for people in Europe because everybody traveled. Everybody traveled.
I,
And there were people.
I heard a story on YouTube just recently. So there was a guy who studies maps, and there was a time between, like, there was a span of a few hundred years where they mapped California as its own island, and he was trying to figure out, like, why was California an island. So after he did some research, he realized that, you know, there was the queen or somebody in Spain was kind of paying people to go out and survey the land. So they were trying to get to the India quicker, you know, around the way. There was a book that came out back in the day. It was like one of the first books of that time printed out, and they came up with this place. It was like imaginary, like a fantasy place of all women, and it was the woman had a name similar to of like Khalifa or something similar to that, and they thought it was a land of only women and gold. And so this boat had a couple explorers on there, and they went around and they went up. So like California has like this little, it breaks away a little bit, but doesn't make it an island. It's just a straight, like a way or whatever. So they get there, and once they kind of get over there, they run out of money. The queen's like, you know what, we're not about to pay for this no more. So the guy is so fantasized, and because he's been reading this book about a place where it's just women and gold, he's like, I'm gonna use my own money and I'm gonna find this place. So he finds California, and he goes up a while, and so he thinks this is an island. So he sends back like, yo, this is an island. We done found the island of California. He ultimately gets to the part where it's all land, and he realizes it's not an island. But back at that point, people have already started making the maps, doing all the things. And so for like a span of a few hundred, well, it was like about at least 600 years, people were mapping California as its own island. So that attests to like the misinformation, and even the fantasy, and like people just kind of making shit up, and like because of the power that they had, that story lasted for generations until someone had to be like, you know what, we got to correct this, that's not right. So I feel like what we're doing with our art is we are historians, and like keeping these conversations and stories going, because if we don't talk about them, like just whatever's out there is what's out there. It's like we need more fact checkers. Like I need to travel more. We need to travel more, see it with our own eyes, talk about it.
Best teacher.
But I can definitely see like a project, because there's some people in here too that are writers, and it's like we gotta write our own histories, man. Like we have to begin to rewrite these narratives, at least share these stories and things like that, because it can get real out of hand real quick. And it's just my mind is still just really exploding from all of the things we spoke on. I guess we are hitting an hour, so I guess I kind of want to wrap it up. If anybody have any questions in the chat, like go ahead and drop that. But me and Sister was gonna have this conversation anyway, so it was like this could go on for days.
You was asking the question regarding like the situation in Africa, or why is Africa how it is?
Let's go there.
Okay, so I mean, what do you understand about capitalism?
Okay. So I guess the sense of, I was going to start with like the economy type of thing.
You think you're a capitalist?
I don't think so, but I guess I am.
You're not.
No, I'm not. Okay.
For you to be a capitalist, you have to own like a factory, a means of how people gain work. Like you have to own some. I'm not talking about owning like a corner store or a shop or mama pop shop. You own the means of production.
Got you.
So
Yeah,
that,
like the big corporations, the big.
yeah, somebody who own, like when you talk about capitalists, you're talking about people like Rockefeller. These people are capitalists.
Okay.
We are workers. We're proletariats. That's who we are. But what happens is capitalists, because of the capitalist system, they want people to feel like they're included. You know what I'm saying? So they give people the dream or the understanding that they also are capitalists. So you want to keep this system going. Now capitalism is run strictly by slaves, poor, and workers. Without these three, you cannot have capitalism running. You need to have slavery. You need to have people in like, so that includes people in actual slavery, working with no pay. That includes prisoners, because if you look in prisons today in America, that's where slavery is.
Yeah.
That's where slavery is today, and been for hundreds of years. After they got rid of what the plantation slavery or whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
you need workers, people who are going to work a very small amounts of money, or money that can just keep them going by. You know what I'm saying? And then you need, so these are the things that you need for capitalism. Now, black people are the one of the first commodities when it came to capitalism. And that hasn't really changed. Just because we're no longer in plantations or they're buying and selling people, they're still doing it in a different way. So for instance, if you look at Black America, right? If you look at Black America, they literally use your culture, the things that you create, like your soft power. So things like music, style, uh, even just the way y'all talk, and they sell this. They package it. Once they find a way or a market that's interested, they package it up. They stop telling you it's whack or it's ghetto or it's this and you shouldn't be doing it, and then they package it up and they resell it to the rest of the world. If you watch all commercials, if you go and you pay attention to all commercials nowadays, they have old 90s rap music some type in somewhere, where before it wasn't like that, because they would say, oh, this is gang music, this is whatever music they'll say. But now they found their kids love it, their kids are used to it, so they repackaged it and they sell it out to the world. That's why Africans can come, or Asians can come, and they already have the whole thing set up. Don't talk to black people. Black people are this, black people are that. It's not a black person going there and telling them, yo, this is what we doing. So when you come, bro, this is what you gonna get from us. Nah, they've learned this already through what's already been repackaged to them. So this is already something that is in movies, is in music, is in just TV shows that they've already been acclimated to, because it's been packaged to them like that.
Mm-hmm.
The understanding that they get, same way that Africans, their lifestyle is packaged in a certain way. So then through the whole world, they think Africans is just flies or civil wars or this and that, or ignorance or laziness or being dumb. These are the things that they package about Africans. And so what we have to understand is, in capitalism, you have your culture, economy, everything is set for sale, because you're still a commodity. We as Africans are still a commodity. Now in Africa, the problem is that,
Uh-oh. Wait a second. I can't hear
oh,
you.
you hear me now?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay, we're set up as an economy or educational system that's not created by us. It's not our framework.
Okay.
We didn't ask to be part of the stock market and all these things. We were put in the stock market first. We were the stock market. Black people were the stock market. Our foods, our crops, everything was is what created the stock market. So you have to remember, same way African Americans were put into slavery, Africa was put into colonialism. And all colonialism is build a bunch of roads that lead from the sea,
Yeah, the port to the
is, and take that out. So they're not thinking about coming to Africa and building the stock market in Africa so that they can trade things in Africa. What they do is they want you to be a farmer, and all you're going to do is farm for the resource. So that's why you see kids digging for resource, right? They get paid less for the resource. So for instance, in Ghana, cocoa is basically one of our top crops. That's what makes Ghana famous. Other than gold is cocoa. Now cocoa is what they used to make chocolate. The people that farm cocoa, go to them, some of them never even tasted chocolate in their life. They've never tasted chocolate in their life because chocolate isn't made in Ghana. Cocoa is cocoa is farmed in Ghana, then shipped to Sweden, and then the capitalists use their factories to repackage it and sell it back to us. That's
sheesh. Yeah.
literally what everything is in Africa, is basically resources, take them out for the cheapest as possible. So we didn't create the stock market. We're not part of the stock market. Those people aren't going to come to Africa and say, let's start an African stock market. And they're not going to let you do your own stock market.
Either.
So
Yeah. Dang.
if you think,
Because I was thinking, there's like so many, like they say the things that make our cell phones run are all, are coming from Africa. There's so many minerals. There's so many
all
resources that they're just stripping out of there.
diamonds, the reasons why you got, when you get engaged and you want a fucking diamond,
Yeah,
is because of Africa.
yeah,
The big
we ain't doing diamonds no more. We ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. But no, I
diamonds are probably the most cheapest mineral, one of the most cheapest shit in the world. You know that, right? It's not
mm-hmm.
valued for any. The only value that they have in it is the advertisement that the Bears did back in the day, where they said, okay, diamonds should be a thing for weddings.
Yeah, diamonds are a girl's best
Yeah,
friend. Diamonds are,
slogan.
and those are some of the things I kind of got introduced to that through graphic design, because you learn about branding and things like that. And that shit it was scary when I first, cause they had no
Yeah,
idea about it, and I was like, oh
man.
shit,
You ever
this
watch
is
Mad Men?
Mad Men. No, I need to watch Mad
Mad Men
Men. Okay,
will basically show you how
it's a
advert.
movie or a
It's a
show?
show.
Okay.
But it will show you how the advertisement industry basically created the white America. Like whatever their culture is,
Mm-hmm.
created that. It's created. And it's basically about an advertisement brand. It's about an advertisement agency. And you follow a dude that's like basically in the advertisement business. And it tells you, like, even if you look at Christmas, Santa, that's like a Coca-Cola thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coca-Cola created the look of what we see as Santa
Yeah, because
today.
in Germany, Saint
It
Nicolaus
don't
was
look
very different.
frail.
Very different.
He a frail ass mother. He looks scary as shit. In England, same thing. But the good thing about England is we actually learn about where that shit comes from,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not trying to create a myth. They
They're
ready.
not doing
They,
that in here. You got to be in college. You got to be a specific major to learn that. You was
yeah,
not learning that, and
yeah,
if they let you in to learn it,
yeah.
they don't want you to know that. But now we have so much access to information. And YouTube University is like, we can figure these out, but you have to have the seed to know, like, damn, let me look into this, or like, why is it like this?
Yeah. That's my mind. I want to understand why. Like, I can't just, if you tell me something, I'm going to look it up. I'm
Mhm.
going to look it up. I might look it up and take a couple of weeks or days, whatever it takes, but I'm going to look it up. If it's interesting, I'm going to look more into it. So like, I can't just accept everything people tell me. Like, I want to know how it works. So that's the thing. A lot of people aren't like
Mhm.
that, but a lot of people are, but then they're tricked into, they don't really understand how to do
Yeah,
research.
it. People don't know how to do research, and I learned that in college. It's like, yeah, because then it's like book report is like all you
Cite,
get, and
cite your work. You put
yeah,
where you got this information from, what book, what chapter, what page,
yeah,
so we can look it up. Is this person reliable?
yep,
Where did this person actually learn his information from?
yep.
All these things, yeah. I think a lot of days in today's I don't know if they stopped teaching
I
kids
think
like
they never
geography
did.
and
They
shit.
never taught. They
I think they
barely
stopped
taught them
doing
that.
that because they don't understand. Like, you can't just like give me information and think just because you gave me information that fits what your argument is, that you've given
Yeah,
me.
now it's all
I
like
know
correct. Yeah.
what the source is. Where's that? Who is this person? Where did they learn at? Are they
Mm-hmm.
reliable? What books did they write?
Yep. And yeah, they don't want people to know, but then that goes right back to what you were speaking on the capitalist shit, because they just want you to just be a worker, a slave. Like they do not want you to know. You're not supposed
But
to know.
I don't think it's a thing where they don't want you to know. It's like you're saying. School is created for you to be a worker.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing you're going to school to learn is how to complete work, complete objectives that are given to you. You're not meant to think
Mm-hmm.
about it, whatever
Right.
else.
Yeah. Don't
But
question it.
yeah, so all school is doing is, and I think they need to change that now because life is different now. But it did work before when you had people actually going from school to factories and working that whole factory for their whole life till they retire.
Yeah.
They they went to school to learn how to be workers. That was what school was for. You clock in, you go, the bell rings, you go to your net, and then college is meant for you to go. So then you learn how to. You're set for. They give you an objective, and are you able to complete that objective successfully? That's
Mm-hmm.
for. But I think that they want you to know, but the game is not told; it's sold. You have to pay. You pay
Mm-hmm.
if you really want the information. It's shit you got to pay for because a lot of times, like, I don't like to buy books. I'm gonna find a PDF version if I fucking can before I even go to a library or anything, or I'm gonna go and find information from people who use that book as a source, so they can provide me with the information from that book. But what's happening today is people aren't they don't understand that, like, a lot of the information, even when it comes to Africa, right? A lot of that information is you gotta pay a lot of money for the
To
books.
actually, yeah, to
These
even, yeah,
old books.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. And I've
Like,
slowly been buying. I've been buying books. If I watch somebody on YouTube or I hear something, I'll go and buy the book because there's gonna be a point where you can't get the
no
book no
more.
more. Like you can't even get
Yeah.
it, and they're gonna change whatever they want on the online, and then that's just what it is. So I have been, and I have found like certain books, the minimum gonna be $40 if somebody's selling it. Like you're gonna start dropping bread for these
Yeah.
books, and
Bread, yo.
that's real. That's real. That is one of my goals too, is to have like like it's gonna be like a digital cafe, but it's gonna be based off real books for real. But it's
But
like,
link, there's this guy on YouTube. It's great,
okay,
man. He, he does a lot about African history, and it's just African history like Egypt and shit like that. It's actual sub-Saharan African history. So like everything underneath the Sahara
okay,
history. And he and his friends, they actually created a database of links to books that they've stored information for all their things, and they have different subjects, from everything, like from current what they used as currency, all the way to like talking about just like even slavery to and the different ethnic groups that went to different places and why they went to different places. Because you Gullah, right? Do you know why they brought you guys to South to
um,
the kindness? Gullah's what?
perhaps rice.
Rice, right?
Yeah.
You know where rice
Huh?
at? Do you know where they do rice at?
Where
Angola.
else?
Angola.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
it's where, and you know where Gullah come from? It comes from them not being able to say
Hola. Uh huh.
English. Yeah. So if you look, rice is one of the main commodities that allowed the Gullah people to flourish, because it's not like sugar where it's a day-to-day type of process. Rice is farmed, and then you come back maybe a year later. So basically, they're left their own, because they literally would go and be like, okay, these people, they're good at rice, so only want these type of people. They even used to say like, oh, we don't want. They used to say we don't want what you call it, people, Yoruba people. Sometimes, because they'll be like, these people, they fight a lot. When they come here, they do a lot of rebellions, because they know that these people are coming from like a organized structural kingdom where they have military that
And they
fought,
know.
and
Yeah, my family,
became
some of
slaves.
them, we was fighting back, but we knew our land, and we were in a lot of swamp
Yeah,
areas, and so a lot of times they
relation.
got defeated. And then we were mound people, so we would have big mounds, and we knew how to be under the mounds, but then it was we had our own defense
Yeah,
mechanisms against them, so we were able to withstand longer than most, but ultimately,
and they left y'all alone.
for a
You
while,
guys
yeah.
were allowed to. There wasn't a lot of like, you can't speak your language. You can't practice your cultural
Yeah, for
religion
sure.
and things like that. So because they were picking people from Angola, Congo, all these different places, they all just came together and they create their own new language with English.
Yeah,
If you look
because
at
it
it,
definitely is a
that's
mix.
what happens in every African community that's outside of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
They always, like, to me, I don't like, young. I'm telling you, I don't see Black Americans no different from Africans today, yo. I don't. All you guys are doing is just doing what you can. You're just being African where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because look at it. Every freaking ethnic group that's come to America has assimilated to white America shit. Even to the point where now Asians and Spanish people are becoming more assimilated into white America. But Black people can't do it, because no matter where you're gonna go, you're always gonna do Africa where you at, yo. You're always gonna be you're gonna do what you can do to be African. That's how it always goes. And it's just up to us to understand our differences, and to also understand what the similarities
Mm-hmm.
are. And the similarities can make us understand more. Because I went to South Carolina, like, was it like I went to Charleston like maybe like 2 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I went to Charleston 2 years ago, and it blew my mind, man. I was just like, we do that. We, we do that. We do, we do that. Oh, that's what we do.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, and I love that. I love to just experience that kind of like cultural deja vu.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, okay, this is, I
Yeah, I
understand
gotta
that.
go to Africa. I gotta go to Africa. I gotta go to Africa.
And even like when I go to the South, yo, and I see Black people, I'm like, damn, yo, that look like my uncle, yo. I'm like, nah, that look like my uncle, yo. Like in the South, I see it a lot, because I feel like, to me, the South kept a lot of their culture. They kept a lot of their culture from the beginning. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's very not like the North, where it's more mixed up. It's too muddy. Yeah. So I always say like, yo, we have differences. Africans have always have differences. Africans, we don't like each other already, man. In Africa, it's not unity. Like, it's not unity. It's like, because we were forced nationalism. Nationalism is a forced concept to Africans. To most of the world, nationalism is forced. And this is what we're under. We're under nations. You know what I mean? And these are things that were made to us. We didn't agree to it. So I always feel like when we see Africans, like, not like people being like, oh, Africans don't like each other, or we're always at war with each other, it's because we didn't ask for this. We have, where my people are in a whole nother nation, and then to the point where we don't even see eye to eye, or even see ourselves as the same people. And that's only because we're in a different
Mm-hmm.
country, a different fake border. So it's like Africans don't, is no Pan-Africanism is outside of Africa to me. Like Pan-Africanism is good for people in the diaspora because it's a way for you to connect with other people in the diaspora. But once you come to Africa, Pan-Africanism didn't really flourish that much. It was killed already. Like they killed that very quickly, you know?
Sheesh. Okay. 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 This was so enlightening. I learned so much, and I'm very thankful. We're gonna wrap this up, but this was not the end for real. I would love to talk to you again, but I'm just so thankful for coming on here, giving us this wisdom, giving us some history, some insight. And I know everybody left knowing more than they did when they got in here. And definitely, if I was taking notes, if I wasn't taking notes, I'm gonna do my best to repost this. Sometimes IG be funny, but I'm gonna post this. But like, let's all encourage each other to continue to learn, look things up, look up something you don't know, watch something new. You gonna share the database with me. We gonna share the information for those who are interested. And yeah, any final words? Anything you
Yeah, not really, man. Just, if you ain't follow me, follow me.
yes.
You know what I mean? Enjoy my stories. You know what I mean? I pack a lot of stuff in there. Other than that, no, just thanks for having me. Like, yeah, when you sent me that message, I was like, whoa, that's a lie. It's like, I was just like,
Ain't
yeah,
no
that's
way
a
we gonna do that in a
I was trying to find ways to like, all right, let me start. I was like, nah, I can't start there. Yeah, so I was glad, you came and was like, let's have a whole conversation about it. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot of misconceptions, and a lot of understanding that we don't understand. Like, America really is an empire. You know what I mean? America is a real empire, and you can't have democracy in an empire. Like, it
damn.
requires it requires a certain type of ruthlessness to have an empire, and we have to understand that, like, it touches all parts of the world, especially Africa, because without Africa, capitalism can't go for a week. Without Africa, capitalism doesn't work. It needs Africa. It needs the manpower and it needs its resource, and that also is Black Americans too. You know what I mean? Because Black Americans actually are at the core of capitalism. They're the crack
Yeah.
dummies that, and then after y'all, they take it to the rest of the world.
No, for
Like,
real. For real.
telling people like all this shit that's happening, like, yo, I mean, yeah, we seen that we seen that at a large scale, right? But these are things that they've done. They bombed places in America. America's bombed Black people. They used bombs
Yeah,
on Black people.
and man, the vaccines, they've been doing that, the shooting people up with different
I
things.
was just reading this thing, right, where they were talking to in the 70s to in Ohio jail, right? Where they were literally they'll basically come to you like, you got 25 years. They'll come to you and be like, yo, we'll shave off 10 years of that 25-year sentence if you allow us to test these medicines. So a lot of the medicines we even have today were
Mm-hmm.
tested on Black folk in prison, to the point
Mm-hmm.
where these guys, their bodies have been like just been messed up. Their health is all messed up just because of capitalism,
Yeah.
and that's capitalism.
Sheesh. So that, yeah, like that's a whole nother segment. Because even I went to the African American Museum, and I went with my parents one time, and one of my dad, like the nurse at my dad's high school, was in that museum for giving out vaccines to the children back in the day. Like, she gave out the most vaccines, and they like gave her an honor or whatever. But in my eyes, I'm like, you poisoned half the fucking city, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you getting the honor award in the museum now. So my dad was like, yeah, that's the lady. He was so excited, but I'm like, boo, that's that lady. Like, just the different generations and how we received it. But yeah, that is a whole, yeah, I'm gonna do some more research, and we're gonna definitely
Yo,
talk about that, because this is the
Black people in medical history is a sad story. story, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story. Like the way it's sad, man. It's sad.
All right, I keep saying we almost done, and I keep talking. All right, y'all, we finished. We wrapping up. Thank you so much, citizens. And then again, I'm gonna post this. If you aren't following him already, click on it. And if you can't click on it when I post it, he gonna be tagged. Just go back and get that. Let's keep these going. Keep learning. Keep reading. Keep studying. Keep talking. Keep talking. Keep growing. And this is Heart to Heart. This is my first episode. Our first episode.
Real?
Amazing. Thank you for.
Oh,
Yeah,
what's up?
I got a couple of them. Got a couple of them this year, but and that's a cultural thing for us too. We the goal. We need to be empowered.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining. Thank you everybody for chiming in. Thank you for your conversations. And then again, as we post it, you got some questions, just drop it in the comments and let's keep this going. I will talk to you soon. Peace, light, and love. And yeah, until next time.